Hello, my dearests. Welcome back to Hero versus the Bucket List, the series where I make an honest effort to play the games on my bucket list and then come back to you guys game by game and give you my first impressions / review of the experience. In the last batch of episodes that I released for this series, I covered the games that I played in spring of 2024. And in today's episode, I will be talking about the one and only game that took over my summer. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door Remake. Now, I played the original N64 Paper Mario in preparation for the Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door Remake. If you want to see my impressions of that game, you can check out my video here. And so I played Paper Mario 1, had a fun time. I was teed up perfectly to experience Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door Remake that dropped back in May. And I actually had played the original TTYD on GameCube way back in the day. Back when local video stores were still a thing, my family would go out and rent GameCube games all the time for like the weekend that we could play that we wouldn't otherwise be able to, that wasn't in our collection. And it was through renting games on the weekend that I got to experience such classics as Sonic Adventure 2 and Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. But I was really bad at it as a kid. I did not make it very far. So really, this playthrough of Thousand Year Door was my first time properly experiencing the game. And boy, am I glad I did. You know, this game has a lot of superlatives thrown its way. Like a lot of people say, it's the best GameCube game, one of the best Nintendo games ever made, one of the best written Nintendo games, that's for sure. And for me, I would even make a claim as far as saying that this is one of the best RPGs ever made. So let me defend my stance and explain why this game not only met my expectations and hype, but exceeded them. Getting warm, dude. Phew. There's really two things to this game that give it that secret sauce that make it so good. First is just really good level balancing. Just like in Paper Mario for N64, the numbers all deal in single digits. Near the end of the game, you can start crossing into double digits. And for health points with the really late game big boss enemies, you get HPs in the triple digits, which seems more significant when your attacks only go up into the single digits. The numbers stay pretty low, they don't get crazy out of hand, and so throughout the experience, you can see the progress you're making, you feel like you're getting stronger, and the challenge always feels appropriate. The only difficulty spike that I experienced where I had to go back and level grind was literally right before the final boss. And I think I could have beaten the final boss in my current state, but it was a pretty tough one. It had some good challenge, so I went back and gained a couple of levels. And it didn't feel like a chore, it didn't feel like, oh, a bad game. It felt like this is the final test, you need to come into this thing prepared. And if you're not prepared, maybe get your numbers up a little. So yeah, the final boss is really cool. I don't want to spoil it, obviously, but it was a really satisfying conclusion to the story. Without spoiling too much, end game of this game really does a good job of including the characters that you met along the way during your journey, which is awesome because the second thing that I think gives this game its special sauce is the characters and world building. Through the Trouble Center, this little place in the town's hub world, Rogueport, you can go and accept people's troubles, which are basically your side quests, your little missions, where you go around the world and interact a little more closely with the characters, make a little extra money, all that good stuff. And what makes a good side quest to me is side quests that don't waste your time. TTYD's side quests excel in that regard. Whenever I would finish a main mission and more troubles would unlock at the Trouble Center, I would rush right over and complete those side quests. because it pushes you to interact with characters that you've met all around the map. You get to learn about their relationships with each other, their histories, and the way the writing is very honest but humorous. I was always excited to learn more about the characters and the world and how everyone knew each other. It's really hard to explain without playing the game for yourself, but Rogueport feels like one of the most real lived-in worlds in a Mario game, in a video game that I've ever played. Because they really put a lot of thought and care into the writing and these characters, making them all feel unique in their own way. There is a slice of life anime happening in the backdrop / set dressing of Rogueport that you just get to experience on top of the main story by playing the side quests. I really hope I explained it well because I fell in love with the characters of Rogueport, and I don't replay many games these days, but I'm already excited for my next playthrough of Paper Mario, so I can experience this world all over again. I really like how every chapter of the game is unique. It does the same thing that the first Paper Mario did, where each chapter is kind of self-contained. It's like a little Saturday morning cartoon. But this game just does a little bit more to kind of connect to the chapters. They're self-contained, but also connect to the grander story. Everything is paced out really nice. Nothing ever gets too samey. So yeah, it's more of a good thing. It does what Paper Mario 64 did well and does it even better. That being said, the last couple of chapters, I could tell the game was starting to run out of steam and ideas. Or maybe just development time. Because as much as I love the train murder mystery that we get to engage with, like I said, the characters and storytelling in this game are really good, so it was all very enjoyable. But the last two chapters don't offer much in the way of proper dungeons. I wouldn't count taking this train ride, dealing with that murder mystery, and then taking a little pit stop, and then doing a little bit of platforming right at the end. I wouldn't really consider that a dungeon. Like the game before and this game in its first couple of chapters establishes that there's some story and towns to travel through, and then you finish it off in a dungeon. And those last two chapters don't really have dungeons, at least not very big ones. So I know it's kind of sacrilegious to critique this game, but if I were to critique a single element, it's that final train level and the final level that I also don't want to spoil. There's just not a lot to do there platforming and dungeon crawling wise. Which isn't a huge loss. The final dungeon of the game is a good one. And this game has so much to offer that 2 of the 8 chapters not really having full-fledged dungeons, it's not a deal breaker, but it was something I noticed because they pulled that trick right at the end of the game. So it feels like maybe there was supposed to be dungeons there and they ran out of time. Or maybe it was a creative decision and they said people are gonna start getting excited and want to see the end of this game. So they kind of abbreviated the last couple of chapters to just keep the good stuff coming. Like I said, wasn't a deal breaker, but I noticed it. I noticed because as you progress through this game, you get access to some really fun paper powers. This game has way more paper powers than the first entry, which makes progression more unique and fun this time around. Quick tangent, I love the bit where you get your paper powers from these cursed chests, and each time they try to gaslight you and tell you that they're not like the other chests. They won't curse you this time, and each time, without fail, they curse you, laugh that you fell for it, and bam, you have a new power. Good stuff. Very funny. What are some other things I can say about this game? Obviously, it's super beautiful. I think one of the reasons people call it one of the best GameCube games that was ever made is it actively makes use of that technology that we see used in Pikmin and also the Mario 101 demo that they made really, really early, like before the GameCube's life. The GameCube had the capability to render and have over 100 characters on screen being individually animated and moving around. And Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door has a bunch of scenes where you have crowds of toads, crowds of these little creatures called punies, hordes of enemies. And they're all individually rendered, they move around, there's not a lot of slowdown when it happens. I think it's pushing the GameCube's power to its limit, and the game is just a visual marvel because of it. Part of this world being lived in comes from these crowds of people that are inserted all throughout the game. Talking about the battle system was awesome in this game. It does what Paper Mario 64 does, and then adds the element of there's now the crowd that can cheer you on, and you get star power for your big special moves through the crowd cheering you on. The crowd can throw either helpful items or unhelpful items like a rock. Right in the middle of battle, depending on who the crowd members are, will determine what they throw at you and what other secondary effects they have on the battle. In the Switch remake, enemies will come into battle with their own items. I believe I heard that's a change. The GameCube game didn't have that. But because of that, you really never know what's going to happen during these battles. You never know if the enemy is going to be holding some items. You never know who's going to be in the crowd. It's really fun, and it genuinely never got stale once my entire playthrough of the game. You unlock new powers and abilities steadily enough that once you might want to play with something new, you get a new character, you get a new star power. Truly, this is just a masterclass in making a video game. The visual design, the story design, the level and battle design, how everything is paced. It is the full package. It does it all. And when people say this is one of the best games ever, it's an understatement. There's really nothing else I can say besides, if you haven't played Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, what are you doing? Get on that. Maybe you played one of the newer Paper Marios and you're like, I'm not really into these games, but the first two Paper Marios, from what I hear, I still have to play the other ones, but the first two Paper Marios are a different beast completely, and this title is just a quality RPG. I love all the party members you get in this game too. I was about to shout out my favorite one, but I don't know if I have a favorite or a least favorite out of these guys. The party members are really good in this game. Mechanically, I have my favorites, but character-wise, I can't pick a favorite. I didn't have a lot of time this summer to play games, which was honestly pretty nice because I got to slow burn through Paper Mario. Every time I got to pick up this game, it was a treat. And between sessions, it was really nice to let everything just sink in. I'm not even upset that it was the only game I got to play this summer. And so with that was this video. Next time you see me, we'll be talking about the games I played during the fall of this year. And I did play a little more than just one game. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, stay super.